camera, what I did on this piece of wood here is I ran it through the belt sander, the wide belt sander, that big white machine off in the distance, right over there. I have, of course, the YouTube video on how to use that machine. In case you haven't used it, make sure to watch that. So this is the same thickness as our other rails, here and here. And what we want to do now is cut this piece of wood to the size of this piece of wood. So what we got to do is work off the center of this hole and then measure back half the distance of this piece of wood each way. So what I'm going to do here is measure the piece of wood, and we have 11 inches. So half of 11 is 5.5. So what I'll do is find the center point here to here and make a line and then mark back 5.5 from there. Okay. Everyone's board's going to be a little bit different. Mine ends up being a little under 3.5 inches this way. So from that center mark, we're going to go back. So there's my center mark. Or what else I can do instead of measuring half the distance, is just put a center mark on one of these boards. Line up my center marks and then use the edge of the board as a way to identify the length of the board. So that might work pretty well. So here I have the halfway point of the other piece. When I line up those two marks like that, I can mark here and mark here so I know where to cut. So again, my center marks are lined up here. Make a mark here, make a mark here. Use my square to kind of get those marks a little bit more defined. And we'll go to the chop saw and make those cuts. And I want to bring my example piece with me so I can double check my length. So I'll make my first cut. And again, we want the saw blade to be on this side of the line. So I'll do a little tester here to show you what I'm talking about. This laser drives me nuts when I turn it off. So you see I'm on the outside of that line a little bit. I kind of favored the line, but I want to be on this side of the cut. So the saw blade isn't taking off the wrong side. Line up my cut very well, so I'm going to make my line a little bit longer on my pencil. So I still see a little bit of that pencil mark there. I'm going to double check it against my actual piece to see how I'm doing here. Just feel it. And it feels just a little bit longer, not by much. So what I'll do here is a little trick is I'm going to push the saw blade down. I'm going to push the piece of wood next to the saw blade. Put a little bit of pressure on that saw blade. Bring up the saw blade and then cut back down. That's just going to take a whisker cut off this thing. Sound pretty good there. Okay, so that's how to cut this piece of wood to this size after you sand it, if you need to sand it. You might not need to sand it.